Hi, this is Greg Burhop from Burhop Seafood in Glenview and Hinsdale, just outside of Chicago. Not only is eating seafood delicious, but it's also very healthy. And with these pure and simple preparations, we're going to help you become more fluent in fish. Caught, frozen, and flown to Chicago. Tonight's dinner, North Australian lobster tails. Since these lobster tails are coming from Australia frozen, your first order of business is to get them completely thawed out. The best way to thaw out your tails is to buy them the day before you're going to cook them and just leave them in their original packaging in the refrigerator overnight. But if you do need to thaw them out the same night, take them out of their packaging and using very cold water, put them in a bowl in your sink and thaw them until you can touch the head of the lobster tail to the tail of the lobster tail very easily, just like this. And it's very, very important to use cold water when thawing them. If you use warm water at all, sure, it might take a little time off of the thawing, but your lobster tails will start to break apart and your meat will become tough. Once your tails are fully thawed, it's time to get them ready for the oven. With a sharp pair of kitchen shears, cut down the back of the tail, which is the curved, colorful part of the tail. But make sure to stop before you cut all the way through the fanned out end of the lobster tail. You're using that shell when you bake to actually piggyback the lobster meat on top of the shell. When you crack apart the shell after cutting it, you don't want to rip it so hard that the shell just breaks in half. You need to crack it open so that the shell itself holds together but gives you enough room to get in between the shell and the lobster tail meat and pull the meat off of the lower membrane, which is underneath the belly of the tail. This process is very important because this is actually how you're going to present your lobster tail on the plate to your dinner guests. So showing you one more time, cut down the curved back part of the tail, spread apart the shell, making sure that there aren't any shell pieces that get left aside, and then getting in between the meat and the shell, lift the lobster tail meat away from that lower membrane and then set it back down. Your next step is to make sure that the lobster tail meat is fully coated in olive oil. It's important to pick the lobster tail meat up and do both sides before pinching the shell underneath the lobster tail meat and piggybacking the meat so that it's sitting on top of the shell, like so. To add a little color and spice to your lobster tails, sprinkle just a dash of paprika on before you put it in the oven. I'm using 10-ounce tails in this video, so after 15 minutes of baking time, I'm going to take the tails out and put a pat of butter on top of each one of the tails before preheating the broiler and setting the tails underneath the broiler for 3 minutes so that butter infuses that cooked lobster tail flesh. To round off our meal tonight from the Pure and Simple department, we're serving our grilled asparagus and calico couscous. These lobster tails are really delicious, so whoever you're trying to impress with dinner, make sure that they know how hard it was to make, even though you know it was really, really easy. Serve your tails with a little melted butter and lemon juice, and you're all set for dinner. Get your bass in here. Don't forget your coupon.